Would you like to be able to grow your own morels? Is that even possible? We'll answer that question as we're going through one of my favorite morel patches. There's another one over here. You can buy spawn for growing your own morels. There's another one over here. Do you see the other one? There's another one here too. The short answer is yes, you can grow morels. You can buy the spawn and you can grow them. Maybe, if you're very lucky and if everything happens that needs to happen in order for the morels to grow, which is probably going to be less likely than things that are going to be more likely. There are many different species of morels. In other videos, I've talked about how they can be divided into two basic types. Some are saprotrophic, some are mycorrhizal. Yeah, I know, those are big, obnoxious words. Instead of being there just to make smart people sound like they know what they're talking about, those words actually mean something. It mostly comes down to the difference between the two in what they do for a living. The saprotrophic ones, they make their living by consuming dead material. The mycorrhizal fungus, they are the hustlers. They make their living by doing deals. We won't go deep into that. I've done that on other videos. The main thing to know is mycorrhizal fungi, which includes most morels, they make deals with plants. Do you see it? We won't go deep into saprotrophic and mycorrhizal. I've done that in other videos. I just need to use those big fancy words a few times to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. The main thing to know about mycorrhizal fungi is instead of consuming dead material, it makes deals in the underground. And it makes those deals with live plants. I say it's in the underground because it all happens underground. It makes those deals with the plant roots. Where there's one, a lot of times there's more. There's a little one over there. It's not a case of they prefer making these associations with plants. It's a case of they have to in order to survive. They require the sugars they get from the plants. That's like their paycheck for all the things they do for the plants. It's how they make their living. The main takeaway from this is most morels are mycorrhizal. If you want to grow morels, it's not a case of you just throw spores out and they start consuming dead things and make mushrooms. If you want to grow them, you're going to have to somehow get them to make associations with plants. How are you going to do that? That is a curious lump in the pine needles. That is a spring bolete, which are quite edible. There's another curious lump in the pine needles. More boletes. And another curious lump in the pine needles. That looks like some kind of coral mushroom. Some are edible, but I don't know my corals. I'm not going to eat it. Those boletes are a little small too. I probably should have left them. They have some more growing to do, but don't tell anybody. It's a little bit late in this spot. It's getting to be the end of May. I totally had to fake cutting that off. When I cut it off for real, the camera forgot to turn on. I had to do it over and fake it. Usually the grays come out early in the season, then the blondes come out, and then these ones we call chocolates because they're kind of chocolatey colored. I only see one in this spot. A lot of times if there's one, there'll be more, but not always. One of the problems with trying to grow morels, if you're trying to grow most varieties, which are, I spoke too soon. In order to grow them, you would somehow have to get them to make association with some plants, which is not very easy. In this case, they're probably making associations with these fir trees. I don't think it's so much the Douglas firs, I think it's the Shasta firs. They can associate with many types of trees, but in this spot, I think it's the Shastas. The morels are dependent on those trees to get the sugars they need to survive. If you're trying to grow them, how are you going to get them to make those associations? In order to grow them, you need to have the right trees. How much do you want to bet there's a morel under this lump of needles sticking up? Sneaky. You'd have to have the right trees, and if the trees are already there, chances are they've already associated with native mycorrhizal fungi. I'm going to have to fake this one again because the camera forgot to turn on again. Hopefully that looked authentic. That didn't happen. You didn't see that. You can try throwing the spores out, then convince the trees to forget about those associations with the fungi you're already associating with. Instead, associate with these spores I'm throwing out. Chances are high the trees are just going to keep doing what they're doing, and they're not going to listen to a word you say. Corally mushroom. I'm not going to eat it. That's most morels, which are mycorrhizal, but there are a few varieties that are saprotrophic. Saprotrophic mushrooms are like a lot of other mushrooms which live off of dead material. These ones are not saprotrophic. It was just a coincidence that I was talking about saprotrophic at the same time I was pointing them out. If you want to grow them, you're probably going to be better off with the saprotrophic types. It would be more realistic to try to get them to feed off of dead material. You can buy the spores to do it, but I have yet to know of anybody who's had any success doing it. A company in Maine, North Spore, who sells mushroom growing supplies, they do sell supplies for growing morels. They are pretty upfront about how the success rate with trying to grow morels is pretty unsuccessful typically. There are some types of mushrooms you can grow consistently, but with the morels, even the saprotrophic ones, they are not on that list of consistent ones to grow. Even the ones that consume dead material, it's hard to get them to grow because they're just finicky, fickle, temperamental, and persnickety all at the same time. I guess I can be all those things sometimes too. As they say, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I'm not going to blame the mushrooms for being that way. I am going to just go pick the wild ones like all those. With all that said, I think we're better off just going out in the out in the wild, not the filed. We're better off going out in the wild and finding them here. This one's all bent over like someone using a short stubby chainsaw bar. More of them. Another bolete. This used to be such a good place for finding morels. There used to be so many in here. Powder on here is pollen coming out of the trees. It's blowing in the air. We're doing pretty well today, but we used to get more out of here. Too many people have found this spot. That's the thing, it's nice to share things with people, but sometimes if you have a good thing and you share it with too many people, it won't be long before it won't be a good thing for anybody. I used to come up here a lot with a couple of my cousins. I never was one to yell out when I was finding them, but they said they always knew. They noticed the sound of my footsteps through the woods would change whenever I found one, especially if I found more than one. I don't think they got so good that they could tell how many I was finding by the sound of my footsteps, but they were pretty accurate at knowing when I was finding them. Do you see it? There's a blonde. First blonde today. I said dudday instead of tudday. I think I made up a new word. Little one poking out of the ground. The top's dried up. I don't think it's going to get any bigger. See another blonde way over there. Another one over here. I'm going to have to fake this one too. Zip, there. Hopefully that looked real. I would like to keep looking and find more, but I have somewhere I need to be. If we were to come up with a conclusion, it's probably, yes, you can grow morels if you are lucky and something happens to where they actually grow, but it's probably not going to happen. I wouldn't even bother trying. The other conclusion, if you have a good morel spot, don't tell anybody about it. Otherwise, you only get half a bag full instead of 10 bags full. I'll put a couple videos up here for you to watch, and maybe in the description too. The one will probably be about how to find more morels than anyone else. The other one, how to grow shiitake mushrooms, which you can grow very consistently, and they are delicious. And if you want to know more about the mycorrhizal fungi and its relation with plants, that's in the morel video, and I'll put another one in the description about that too.